There is something inside you that you never show to anyone, something you hide, even from yourself. That dark thought that crossed your mind and made you question who you really are. That anger that came from nowhere. That desire you're ashamed to admit. Carl Jung had a name for it, and it was not a gentle name. He called it the shadow. And today, you will discover why ignoring your shadow doesn't make it disappear. On the contrary, the more you deny it, the more power it gains over you. The shadow is not just your bad side. It is the sum of everything you have rejected about yourself, everything you repressed, everything that society, your family, your religion told you to bury. Anger, envy, sexual desire, brutal selfishness, cruelty, laziness, arrogance, all the things you learned to hide, to be accepted. And here is the problem. When you bury these things alive, they do not die. They grow in the dark, fed by denial, and eventually they explode. In the video on envy, we explored how Cain was consumed by something he did not recognize in himself. That was the shadow. And by the time he finally saw it, it was too late. 1913, Carl Jung, the brilliant psychiatrist who had worked with Freud, was on the verge of collapse. He had broken with his mentor, and he decided to do something no one had ever attempted. He descended voluntarily into his own madness. For 6 years, Jung immersed himself in what he called a confrontation with the unconscious. He recorded dreams. He drew visions. He spoke with the entities he found in the depths of his psyche. And in the middle of this journey, he found the shadow. Not his personal shadow, but the shadow, the universal archetype. And what he discovered was terrifying. That every human being carries within them not just light, but a deep, living darkness, desperate to emerge. And that to deny it is the fastest way to be possessed by it.
First law of the shadow. Everything you deny in yourself, you project onto others.
Have you ever noticed how certain people irritate you deeply for no rational reason? As if something about them activates a disproportionate rage within you. Jung discovered why. You are not reacting to them. You are reacting to the part of yourself that they reflect. The arrogant person you hate, perhaps because you buried your own arrogance. The coward you despise, perhaps because you denied your own fears. The manipulator who infuriates you, perhaps because you repressed your own manipulative tendencies. As we explored in the video on gaslighting, manipulators can distort your reality because they touch on something unresolved within you. They activate your shadow, and you react with a force you don't understand. Jung called this projection. And the cruelest part, the more you deny your shadow, the more violently you project it onto the world.
Second law of the shadow. When you deny it long enough, it possesses you.
Jung documented case after case. The pastor who preached purity and was caught with prostitutes. The loving mother who erupted in homicidal violence against her own children. The pacifist who committed a brutal murder. What happened? The shadow was suppressed with such force that when it finally broke through, it was with catastrophic violence. You see this every day on a smaller scale. The always calm person who explodes out of nowhere. The saint who betrays their spouse and family. The rational one who acts on a self-destructive impulse. This is not hypocrisy. It is possession by the shadow. The more you pretend to be only light, the more pressure the darkness builds. And when it erupts, it destroys everything. In the video on Stoic discipline, we talked about controlling impulses, but you cannot control what you do not acknowledge. And the shadow can only be controlled when it is seen. Third law of the shadow. You don't destroy it, you integrate it. This is the part most people don't understand. Jung was not telling you to act on your dark impulses. He was telling you, acknowledge that they exist. Look at your anger and say, yes, that is in me. Look at your envy and say, yes, I feel that. Look at your selfish desires and say, yes, that is a part of who I am. Not to act on them, but to disarm them through awareness. Because here is the secret. The shadow only has power when it is hidden. When you bring it into the light of consciousness, it loses its ability to possess you. Jung called this integration. And he had a warning. I would rather be whole than good, for in wholeness lies the truth. It is not about being perfect. It is about being real. Accepting that you are capable of dark thoughts doesn't make you evil. It makes you human and aware. And a person who is aware of their shadow is infinitely less dangerous than a person who denies it exists.
But it's no use understanding. If you don't do this, the shadow will continue to use you as a puppet. So here is the practical exercise. Jung called it ShadowWork. Take a piece of paper, or open the notes on your phone, and make a brutally honest list. What are the thoughts you are most ashamed of? What are the desires you would never admit? What are the personality traits you hate in others, but that might just exist in you? Don't do this to judge. Do it to see. Because the first step of integration is recognition. And when you look at your list and say, yes, this is in me, something changes. The shadow doesn't disappear, but it stops controlling you from behind the scenes. It becomes part of your consciousness, and consciousness can always choose. But it is precisely at this point of awareness that most people fail. They content themselves with disarming the darkness without realizing they were about to find the gold. This is the final twist that Jung discovered and that few dare to seek. The shadow does not only contain your worst aspects, it also holds your greatest unrealized potentials. That wild creativity you suppressed to be professional, that intense passion you suffocated to be reasonable, that brutal courage you hid to be polite. Jung realized that creative, authentic, powerful people are not those who have eliminated their shadows. They're those who have integrated them. They transformed anger into art, pain into wisdom, darkness into light. Not by denying who they are, but by accepting everything they are. And this connects to something we explored in the video about Machiavelli. He was hated for telling the truth about power, for not pretending that human darkness didn't exist. Jung did the same, but instead of politics, he mapped the psyche. And he discovered that denying the darkness doesn't make you luminous, it makes you divided. And there is something even more dangerous than the personal shadow, the collective shadow. Jung observed that when entire groups deny their shadows, they project them onto other groups, and from this, the horrors of humanity are born. Wars, genocides, religious persecutions, they all begin with the same pattern. One group says, "We are the light, they are the darkness." And this mass projection justifies any atrocity. Because it is easier to demonize the other than to accept that the capacity for evil lives within every one of us. Jung lived through 2 world wars. He saw entire nations possessed by collective shadows, and he cried out a warning that most ignored. The world is full of people who are saving the world, but who have never looked inside themselves. As long as you are projecting your shadow, you are contributing to the very darkness you claim to fight. Jung spent decades studying the shadow, and at the end of his life, he was not a saint. He never tried to be. He was a man who knew his own darkness, who had looked at it without flinching, and because of that, he was free in a way most will never be. He wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This is the truth no one wants to hear. You do not become better by pretending to be good. You become better by recognizing you are capable of being evil and consciously choosing not to be. That is the difference between the good person possessed by the shadow and the whole person who has integrated the shadow. One is an accident waiting to happen. The other is a fortress. So now you know. You have a shadow. You always have. You always will. The question is not if you have a shadow. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Option 1. Keep denying it. Keep pretending you are only light, and accept that it will possess you at the most inconvenient times, in the most destructive ways. Option 2. Do the work. Look at it. Acknowledge it. Integrate it. Accept that you are capable of dark thoughts, and that this acceptance does not make you evil. It makes you whole. And a whole person is far more dangerous than they appear. Not dangerous to others, dangerous to illusions, to the social lies that depend on your unconsciousness. Because when you integrate your shadow, you become unreadable. You can no longer be manipulated by appeals to your goodness. You can no longer be controlled by fear of being seen as evil. You simply are, complete, conscious, free. If you have made it this far, if you have felt the weight of every word, you are no longer who you were 12 minutes ago, because now you know. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is the part of you that was waiting to be acknowledged. And when you acknowledge it, when you integrate it, you do not become darker. You become more whole. If this video resonated with you, leave a comment. Schatten, German for shadow, the word Jung used. It is not a comment. It is a declaration. It is you saying, "I have seen my shadow, and I am no longer afraid of it." And by subscribing to this channel, you are joining a fortress of minds who understand something rare. That true self-knowledge is not pretty. It is not comfortable. But it is the only thing that sets you free. Go now, and let your wholeness be your definition.